with all the talk that had been around about my succession, I thought it was probably a good idea to try and hook up with someone famous that might give me a shot at a second career here. So we were available for weddings and funerals and bar mitzvahs. And we actually had one offer the other day. I thought it was kind of insulting. They got offered $1,000, and I mean, for me and Paul, that really seemed a little ridiculous. And I told the people that, and they said, "Okay, we'll make it 10,000 if just Paul comes." We released our earnings yesterday, and I've always emphasized we try to release our earnings always after the markets closed, and preferably after the markets closed on a Friday, so that people will have a full weekend to digest the information, because there's a lot of information about Berkshire every quarter, and it's contained primarily in a 10Q that we make available for you to read over the full weekend. So we always urge you not to just look at the summary figures, but take a look at the 10Q. It's great reading, and absorb all that by Monday morning. But here we have the summary for the first quarter, and as you can see, our operating earnings were down a bit, and that was more than accounted for in insurance underwriting. And you should understand that insurance underwriting from quarter to quarter really doesn't mean that much. For one thing, it can be quite affected by changes in foreign exchange, which really don't have anything to do with our insurance business, but or at least in the reality of interim results. Our insurance business now has a float of $77 billion, and that $77 billion is ours to invest, and whether it costs us anything or not is determined by whether we have an underwriting profit. So even though our underwriting profit in the first quarter was quite satisfactory, but nevertheless down from the first quarter of last year, the insurance business is marvelous for us. And if we even break even, that's $77 billion, which is subtracted from net worth. I mean, it's a liability on the balance sheet, but if it's cost-free, it really does us about as much good as net worth itself does. So it's a very remarkable business, and frankly, if we average an underwriting profit over the years, I'll be very happy, and you should be very happy with what our insurance business does for us. But it was down in the first quarter, and like I say, that more than accounted for the decline in earnings. We always advise you to pay little attention, or pay no attention really, to quarterly or even annual realized gains or losses in securities, because we make no attempt to time the sales of securities to produce earnings in any given quarter. We just try to manage the money as well as we can, and we let the chips fall where they may in terms of whether those actions produce gains or losses in the short term. We hope that they produce a lot of gains over the longer term, and they have. But they should be ignored in attempting to interpret our shorter term earnings. With that, I would like to give you a little preview of a vote that has taken place, and which we'll talk more about when we get to the shareholders meeting. But it's so remarkable that I wanted to put it up for all of you to look at now. As you know, we had a shareholder resolution. Yeah, it's up there. We had a shareholder resolution, rather elegantly stated, that suggested that we pay a dividend, and with the sort of subliminal suggestion that we weren't paying it because I was so rich that I could live in this grand style to which I'd become accustomed without a dividend, but that the shareholders were out there essentially bereft of the necessities of life because we were holding all the money here in Omaha. So this gentleman put this on the ballot, and if we'll go to the next slide, you'll see some remarkable figures. Bear in mind that you people get these proxies at your home or at your office, and you can mark anything you want. We hire no proxy solicitation firms, so we are making no calls. We make no attempt to influence how anybody votes. We just count them as they come in. And as you'll see at the top, among the Class A shares, the vote was roughly 90 plus to 1 against the dividend, but you might suspect that I stuffed the ballot box, which I did. And so I took my vote out, and you'll see down below, the vote was a little less than 40 to 1 among the untainted shareholders of A against receiving a dividend. And then you may say to yourself, well, those are rich friends, all the plutocrats, and easy for them to say. So let's go on to the next slide, and you will see there that among the B shareholders, and we believe we may have as many as 1 million B shareholders. We don't know the exact number. We don't even know an approximate number very well. But it's not a bad guess that we have 1 million or so shareholders. And remarkably, by a vote of 45 to 1, these are people who are not making any phone calls to get their vote or anything. By 45 to 1, our shareholders said, don't pay us a dividend. I'm not sure that there's any company in the world that would get quite that vote. And now we go to one more slide, and that'll be the end. But this is the rather disturbing part of that vote. If you go to the next page, you'll see again among the B shareholders that I've got that same vote up there. And if you look down below, you will notice that almost the same number of people voted against or withheld their vote for me as voted for having a dividend. So from that, you can only deduce that the shareholders are ever forced with the choice, or I should say if the directors are ever forced with the choice of paying a dividend or getting rid of me, it's a close vote. So you can see why I'm rather reluctant to bring up the dividend question with the directors. The vote, actually up until 2 days earlier, before these final figures, the vote was actually just virtually a dead heat. A number of people that wanted to have a dividend, and the number of people that wanted me to get out of the place were running neck and neck. So again, it's a rather unusual voting arrangement.